The year is 1997. It's Friday night, about 7:30 p.m. You don't know it yet, but these nights are going to be some of the most epic nights that you will ever have. You hop in your father's truck, driving down the town you grew up in, passing the ice cream shop, and there it is, the giant blue and yellow logo, Blockbuster. You walk in, the smell of plastic and popcorn, all the new releases, horror, sci-fi, comedy, drama, thriller, mystery, all at your disposal. Hundreds of covers, snacks, blue uniforms. This is what it was like to be in Blockbuster in the 90s. Boy, do I miss those Blockbuster nights. You know, we take for granted how easy it is to just turn on whatever we're on, phone, computer, TV, streaming service, Xbox, PlayStation, and how easy it is to find a movie to watch. I don't think it's me when I think, man, you know, there's so many movies, but I don't want to watch any of them. I don't want this. There's thousands of movies, and you scroll and scroll and look and scroll, and it's all, half the time you end up just putting on something you've already seen, right? Because there's no experience to it. Back in the day, we'd hop in the car, shoot down to the local Blockbuster, hop in, and just take a look around at the movies. You saw couples, saw dates. You saw a family chasing that new Disney movie that came out. Maybe Toy Story, one of my favorites. Hook, Robin Williams. The magical movies of the 90s. It is an era that is lost amongst the new generation. Am I just getting old? Is it just the way I felt at the time when I was a young child? I guess you'll never really know. When you walked in there, surrounded by other people, Friday nights, you didn't go out. You went to Blockbuster and you picked a movie. You were all excited, stuff that came out. You grabbed a thing of popcorn. You rung up your new movie. I remember specifically a movie that I had seen in Blockbuster. I always wanted to rent it, and it was rated R. I was young. I think it was actually 1997. It was called Cube. And I just remember that cover photo in Blockbuster. I have a very specific memory. And that cover pulled me in. I had never heard of it. Cube was not a massive motion picture like some of these Blockbusters were. I ended up seeing it one day and I was like, wow, you know, like I remember that in Blockbuster, seeing the VHS cover on the wall. And I was like, man, that's cool. I want to see that one day. And then I ended up seeing it, and it was an incredible movie. But my memory is distinctly a Blockbuster experience with Cube. Even though I didn't end up renting it from Blockbuster. I had seen it later on, like TV. But I specifically remember, if I had never saw that in Blockbuster, I would have never had an interest. You know, they say, don't judge a book by its cover, right? But why would a book have a cover? Why would a movie have a cover if you weren't supposed to judge it by the cover? At least a little bit. And this movie, Cube, is a prime example. I had not seen any trailer for it. It was not big. I don't know anyone who saw it. I saw the cover for it, and I remembered that. And then I remember seeing it was on TV or a streaming service. I really don't remember which. And then I was like, I remember that movie in Blockbuster. I had always wanted to see it. And it tied to my memory how important that experience was and how cool that cover was. So if I had never walked into Blockbuster that night, I would have never seen one of the coolest movies that I've ever seen. Now let me warn you, if I'm hyping you up for Cube, I want to warn you it's not for everybody. This is a sci-fi horror. It's a little gory. Again, it's 90s, so it doesn't look too, disgusting versus nowadays. It is worth checking out if you're into that kind of thing. But, I mean, the movie is weird. It's a 90s sci-fi horror. I loved it. The days of Blockbuster. I kind of think, what if we brought Blockbuster back? What would happen if we really brought Blockbuster back? Just for the sake of thinking about it, that some billionaire wanted to bring back Blockbuster, didn't care about profits, because, I mean, there's no profits in video rental as of now. As of 2023, January 2nd, rounding 3rd, 2023, the video rental service isn't, a profitable business. But say, all that aside, say someone did want to do it, say almost for charity. Would it be the same experience? I'm not sure. I don't think it would be, because there's some things that time just changes. And I think the video rental store is something that, unfortunately, if you didn't ever get to experience, I don't ever see it coming back in the same way that it was once in the 80s and 90s. Now, I wasn't around in the 80s. I was born in the 80s, so I don't remember that. So I'm judging by the 90s. But from what I understand, Blockbuster had perfected its craft in the 90s. Those days, pre-social media, especially if you're under a certain age, where you had Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter growing up, you can't quite possibly understand how it was before social media. Like you can use your imagination and be like, oh yeah, I just wouldn't have my phone. I wouldn't have social media. But boy, was it different. People were more connected back then. People weren't at odds with each other like they are now. So when you'd go to Blockbuster, it was a social experience and it was fun. If you see someone in your favorite section, say you walk over into sci-fi and you see someone picking up Blade Runner and you're just like, dude, you got to watch that movie. It's good. And they're like, oh, yeah, is it good? I've been wanting to see it. And you're just like, you have to see it. That kind of connection will be lost in history.
Like tears in rain.
It will become only history, where you can truly relate to someone picking out a movie in a video rental store without the distractions of social media. People get bored for 5 seconds and they pick up their phone and check it. When that wasn't an option, you were more engaged to the people around you. You were more engaged to your experience. Experiencing things was just that, experiencing them. Now, when people experience things, a good amount of the population is more concerned with documenting it and showing it to everyone. I'll be at a concert and they're on their phone with the concert. I get it, record, and they'll be watching the concert through the phone. So they're experiencing it exactly as their friends are on their phone. It's like, at least if you're going to record, hold it up and watch the show and just make sure it's recording the good angle. But why would you be watching the show through your phone? Social media has changed a lot. The video rental store is just one of the many things that won't be able to be experienced the same way ever again. It's not like they couldn't bring back video rental stores. Like I said, if some guy wanted to bring back video rental stores and made it work, could make a profit, it's still not the same post social media. It wouldn't be exactly how it was. It's funny, because social media has actually made people less social. It's been making them more comfortable with not being around people because you feel connected to them through a phone. And that's cool, but you don't actually have that bonding experience of being near someone or meeting someone new. When people go into a store, they see someone like, oh, hi. They're very, very antisocial now. And I'm not saying this in like an emotional way, but it's true. You're connected to a bunch of people, you're preset people on your phone. You're not concerned with talking to someone. You're not as open to it. On average, some people are, of course, but it's not quite the same as before social media. When you went out to a store, there was nothing. You were free. You were truly free. When you walked in that Blockbuster, there's no, you didn't have that phone. You didn't have that connection to everyone. So when you walked into your favorite section, you made a true bond. You bonded with that person over your favorite genre. Blade Runner. You got to watch Blade Runner. I remember specifically talking to people in Blockbuster and those one-on-one connections. And it was awesome, man. It was a different time. And not to mention the whole video game aspect of it. Blockbuster was mainly movies, but they did have video games. I'm going to go way back, okay? So in my hometown, the place I grew up in, Massachusetts, there was a store called Video Village. I'm going to paint a nostalgic picture for you. This place was maybe 200 square feet. Maybe 200 square feet. Video cassettes, VHS. That's the big tapes for you who don't know. I'll give you an example really quick. Blockbuster Video. You walk in, VHS, from the floor to the ceiling of VHS movies. They had wooden shelves separating alphabetically and by genre. And it was just a wood aesthetic. Even the shingles on the top of the roof were like this old village. It was very euphoric in a way. You'd walk in and you walked into Dimension movies and video games. And Video Village was my absolute favorite. You couldn't see anything but VHS movies. Up and down every aisle. You go down just floor to ceiling. Everywhere you looked was movies. Words, brands, logos. It was absolutely amazing. And, like that's not going to be ever replicated. There's styles of stores that will never be replicated again. And the video rental store, rest in peace, was an amazing experience. And renting video games was awesome too. So back in the day, you could rent video games before you bought them. So you could test it out. Some of the most fun games I played, I had rented previous. I still remember the day that Video Village was going out of business. And I was like, damn, man, end of an era. This is my favorite video rental store. I love Blockbuster, big corporate chain, good vibe. But Video Village, that was like the town vibe. That was much more hardcore and unique. They made that store. They made how it looks. Blockbuster is a great vibe, but it's corporate. Every Blockbuster you go in feels similar. Video Village felt like no other. It was truly a Video Village. And I remember the day that they announced that they were going out of business. I was truly heartbroken. But at the same time, I was like, you know what? Let's go in there and buy some video games and movies. And one of the video games I bought there was the original Resident Evil long box case for the PS1. This one is rare. If you're a regular to my channel, you know my favorite game of all time is the original Resident Evil Director's Cut, which essentially is the same as the original Resident Evil for all intents and purposes. I remember bringing it up, and there was eBay, but it wasn't as popular as it is now. He looked it up on eBay. He's like, oh, these go for about $25. And I pointed it out to him. I was like, oh, that's the mini case, the jewel case for Resident Evil. That's $25. This long box isn't as much. You can't charge the same price for the jewel case. The jewel case is worth more, which is funny because the long box is actually worth more. It's more rare, but it was older and the guy didn't know. And they were already going out of business. So I wouldn't do this, like they were already going out of business. So I was like, I'm going to get a little bit of a deal for myself because I had supported them for years and I had given them tons of money. We rented N64s from them. We rented PlayStation 1. We rented, I think, a couple handhelds like Game Gear and Genesis. So I didn't feel too bad. I wanted to get a deal. They were going out of business. I wanted my chunk of Video Village in Resident Evil form. So I convinced him to sell it to me for like, I think it was $10 or $15. And to this day, this Resident Evil long box case is one of my favorite collector items that I've ever purchased. To sum it all up, it represents an era that is no longer. I love the video rental store era. That is one of my favorite childhood memories, is going into a store, renting a movie, committing to that movie. You paid for it, you rented it out, you got to return it. There's more pressure to watch it than there is now. You can watch anything. It makes it, when it's too easy, you can always go back to it. But when you go to the store, you rent it, you take it home, you got to bring it back by Sunday. You're committed. You have to watch it. And it was before social media, no distractions. You rented that movie, you grabbed your girl, you threw it in the VCR, and you watched the movie. Sometimes it was good and sometimes it sucked, but it was still an experience. And you learned something from that. And the video rental days are over, but they are heavily missed by me as well as thousands of you others who loved renting videos. Shout out to Blockbuster and Video Village for holding it down with the video rentals in the 90s for when I was growing up. I am very thankful that I got to experience the video rental stores, renting cool movies that I had never heard of, renting cool video games that I couldn't afford to buy when I was 9 and 10 years old. It was a different era and it is missed. And I am forever grateful that I got to grow up in that generation. Because if you didn't, I'm sorry, but you did miss out. And all you can do is use your imagination to recreate it. Thanks everybody for watching. Don't forget to watch some good movies. And I'll see you on the next one.